Hey, this is Blake Sloan. I've been selling real estate over 14 years, and our team of highly trained professionals, along with our unmatched marketing, has sold thousands of homes here in the Myrtle Beach area, and this is how we do it.
The problems you all have are not real estate problems, right? They're problems that you have internally that I'm trying to help you fix and grow so you can sell ultimately more real estate. What most people try to do is fix the real estate problems. The real estate problems aren't the real problems. Does that make sense? And so that's kind of what we have to unpack all this from 10, 15 years ago or 30 years ago or 40 years ago to help you overcome that with both your patterns and your habits, right? So one thing we have to do, right? First thing we want to do, number one, right? We're going to have the overall, who remembers number one? Uncritical observation of who? Me. So the first step of that's number one for you all. I got to be willing to take a snapshot of exactly me, where I'm at, and I want to make sure I'm able to have an uncritical, write this down so you guys can see, list of reactions. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be good. So literally, part of my life, let's see my body, be willing to pause and take a true, real snapshot of where I'm at right now in my body or in my business. And that would mean deep. How many sales I got, right? How many past clients I got? What's in my bank account on the sales side? All these things are coming in from the sales side, a true snapshot, aka list of reactions. With me on that? Does it make sense, everybody? That would be your pending, be all these things, because there's going to be two sides of this. Now, ultimately, and I'm kind of getting ahead, this will bring some feelings. But most people aren't willing to do what? Stop and just take a true snapshot of where I'm at right in this very moment.
And face their feelings.
And face the reality, because what we do, we numb ourselves to what it is, or like Tiffany said, we filter it because we just kind of create things and say they're way better than they are. When ultimately they're not. At least where we want to be. And you can still be good about it. There's some things that, hey, I feel really good about this right now. I crushed this, last quarter, whatever it is, and I want to continually have an opportunity to see what's next. Ultimately, what I'm going to get at is your list of reactions here, as they go on, are going to help you determine your why. Does that make sense? I'm going to say that again. Your list of reactions here are going to help you ultimately determine your why. So, perfect example for me, right? Like in my body part, like I went through the part where I lost almost 20 pounds, it's like 185. But then that was what I wanted because I wanted to look lean. But the problem with that is, I felt small and skinny in my shirts, and I felt small and skinny all the time, which is too rare, right?
Yeah.
For working out, man. So then I flipped to the flip side of that, right? And went back up past 195, right? And so then all of a sudden I'm like, well, shit, now I feel like my face is fat, right? So now you got to figure out, and I'm going to get onto this because it depends on, you got to have a snapshot in that moment. Because that helps you find the area that you want to be in. Does that make sense? And so there could be anything from that part, or it could be anything from running a mile to physicality. But here's the thing. Those reactions of my snapshot of myself at that time are going to help lead to the why. That's the thing.
The no body.
Yeah, so it could be, for example, okay, like yours example, it could be a photo is the what, right? Yeah. A snapshot. And for example, look at it that way. A photo of my business, photo of my relationship, photo of my happiness, we give a photo of my, like I said, body. And so that comes out to, right, my list of reactions. And so here's the problem I was getting at. Most people never take the time to actually pause and be with themselves and think about your true reactions about your current snapshot. If you took anything away from this, that's what it is. It's how do you pause and literally take an unbiased, true snapshot of where you're at right now and be able to write down a list of reactions, how you feel. And you could have some that are good, you could have some that are bad. 90 days, right?
90 goals before we set the new ones.
Tax feelings.
Yep. And so I'm trying to diagnose, though, steps 2 and 3 are why people don't stick with that.
Okay.
Right? A lot of people say they want to have change. They don't actually have change. That's where the aha is going to come in a few minutes. But yes, it's the same process that we kind of do here overall. There's plenty of time to put something this year on with one penny. Right? But it goes back to the story. That's what I want you guys to look at. This list there's the who in that snapshot. So I'm looking at my business, right? I look at my who in the current business. That make sense to y'all a little bit?
What I kind of think on this one is, obviously correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like we don't ever do any of this unless the pain is deep enough to push.
Yes.
When you see that picture and your face is big, you didn't think about it for like the 3 weeks that you were eating out and drinking. You know what I mean? But it's at that moment that you're like, now I need radical change because I'm not doing enough with
and most people
7 days a week.
And most people wait too long, right, to do this. And so if we can have this
no
in real
pending,
time.
and then I ramp it up.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or, my wedding's coming up. Now I need to look good on the beach versus like a year ago when I was supposed to be doing this
Right.
beach picture.
So-
And a two-piece. It doesn't come unless the radical changes.
And so this is just like a certain snapshot to kind of create that change. Like in your situation, you go through all that, right? What are the reactions? Overwhelmed, all the certain things. And so through these things, I got to find the why of what I'm going to actually do. Does that make sense? Of what needs to change, what is going to change, which we'll talk about in a second. That's going to be number 2. Yeah. And here's why, and this is kind of my next part, as I wrote down, is that here's a problem. Without taking time to take inventory of your true reactions, we're very deceitful to ourselves, right? We're blind to ourselves in that regard. So meaning that we're like, oh, everything's okay, right? But ultimately, really, it's not. Until we're able to look at that reality of the feelings where things actually really aren't okay. And so we begin to be deceitful to ourselves, I wrote, to do that. We're blind without that. So what happens, we ignore this, and we're not looking at the list, we become very satisfied, right? And so I'm not looking at where things are right now. Oh, it's not bad. I'm very satisfied, right? I got plenty of time. But in reality, if you look out on the paper, you have a countdown, right, to your wedding, how many days it is, you look at those things, it makes a big difference once I'm able to take that time to have the snapshot, because without looking at the snapshot and the list of reactions of where I'm at, I'm very satisfied, even though as the clock runs out, I'm not going to be satisfied at all. And what happens is most people end up coming short because they're not willing to take real-time inventory of the snapshot of where they're at. Does that make sense? And so as you do that, there's one thing you got to do. Here, give yourself permission to feel. Meaning that I got to feel what this is. It could be bad. It could be good. It could be both, right? But here's the deal. You're not going to change anything until you get a little bit pissed off in that regard.
Okay.
So that's the thing, is I want to take that, pull that forward, and take a snapshot of who I am being right now. Who am I being right now? Because number 2, right, is going to be, what is it? You guys remember what it is?
Aim.
Number 2 is going to be the aim, right? So I got to make sure that I have the actual aim of, what do you think that is? My target, right? I must formulate the aim and design fundamentally where I want to be. I must take the right aim and design fundamentally where I want to be. And this is going to come together in a second, because I'm going to show you the disconnect where everybody screws up at. So number 2, I take the aim of fundamentally where I want to be. What do you think that means? Like fundamentally where I want to be. What does that mean? And this is kind of what we go through already, but I'm trying to help you guys figure out why the hell we don't hit the change.
End result. What do you think?
I must take a list, right, from my current snapshot.
Yeah.
AKA, I'm pausing that screenshot in the map, and I'm creating, number 2 is an aim of where I want to be fundamentally in the future. Yes. What about that list needs to change now? Right? What that list needs to change now. That's the important part. So, for example, it could be anything. It could be frustration, overwhelmed. What needs to change for that? Right? Same thing with Baron. Where your pain is at in the business could be organization, time counter we talked about last week, right? That would be what, here's who I am from an aiming standpoint going forward.
Like actual check box. Like
Tangible.
Tangible things
Right?
that you can do.
That's the key important part, is I must make sure I have that overall. Does that make sense? Because as I have that, I must have a constant observation going forward. I'm going to get to the point where it makes sense with what people do in a second. But overall the list, right, in that aspect. Formulate the aim, which would be very clear on where I'm at. This is kind of what we do here, but what happens the minute that we start on week 2 and 3, what happens, people? They fall off, right? So here's what you got to do. You got to have a constant observation of my aim. So I want you guys to write that down.
Have it right in front of you.
Right? A constant observation of my aim, because if I'm not looking on week 2 and week 3, week 4 of am I on my aim or not, what happens?
You're not doing that. It's not in front of you. You forgot. You're going back to your original.
So here's my list, right, of what I need to be going forward. Here's my aim of my target going forward, right? This is kind of where everybody moves towards. And here's what people do. You got to have 2 options. My thinking from my aim, or am I thinking of my aim? What do you think everybody tends to do? They think of my aim. So the minute they get off, what do? They just give up on the aim. Right? They just give up on the aim, and so, I didn't hit it, or I'm behind schedule, or I can potentially hit it. And so like in Katie's example, if I think I got time to do it, what would that mean? That would mean I'm not focusing on my aim consistently. Because if I don't know if my shot's on or off, what am I not doing? I'm not taking inventory of my aim, which is why we have to have the constant observation. So in your situation, you got to constantly be observing, am I on target or off target for where I want to go? Hence why we have the 30 days and 60 day benchmarks, right? But here's what my big aha from this, that's why I was teaching this, is everybody here tends to go from thinking from your aim to thinking of your aim. Meaning like I'm going to do it, but I'm not actually going to get around to it.
Well, that's like the Patrick example.
Yeah, perfect example, right?
Sorry, Patrick.
Yes,
I love you.
I'm going to do it, right? But I don't actually do it.
Yeah.
And so the key here is how do I make sure I'm from my aim consistently right now and move into that point? And that's why I'm going to get to number 3. Number 3 is detachment.
Take yourself out of the feelings.
Yes.
Go move to the facts.
So no matter what, I got to be very good at taking myself out of where I'm feeling. So what happens, we have this come through like 90-day challenge, right? Week 2, what happens? I'm behind, oh fuck it, I'm just going to quit.
Down.
Right? And all y'all just fall off. Everybody's pumped up week 1, week 2, they just fall off. And so there has to be that constant obsession with where am I at, aka constant observation, right? And number 3, detachment, because if I'm off, I can't give up. Right? And so week 8 comes in and you eat this pizza, you do the things, whatever it is, right? Do they just give up or they figure out, okay, I'm off my aim, I got to go right back to it? And so I got to live where? I got to live right here from my aim. This doesn't make sense. Half of y'all can get this shit, but it was a kind of an aha to me that I've got to make sure I have this part here is the actual tactical tool for you guys. Like be obsessed with where you're at on that line, and if you're off, figure out where the aim's at. So I'm shooting a rifle at a target from a few hundred yards, whatever it is, right? Whatever it is, I can figure out where I'm at, and then what do I do? Adjust. But if I'm not obsessed with that and hitting that target consistently, if I miss the target one time, I'm shooting a gun, do I just say fuck it and quit? No, but everybody in the 90-day challenge or life or business real estate, they'll be off and they just give up. And your energy shows it when you show up on Tuesday, energy shows it in form of results, and so they just go back to who? Being right here where they were originally, of just being this person right here while time moves on. And so the whole thing from today is I would like for you just to look at as this time goes on, you're not going to be able to stop this. The only question is how fast am I willing to commit to moving on to who here? Does that make sense to y'all? Some of y'all confuse this shit, but some of it does make sense. It's like, if you take anything from it, like you've got to be, my aha when I was going through this and just studying some of this, and it was a combination of one thing I studied, also the Kobe stuff, right? Everything he did was he was obsessed. He rolled his ankle multiple times in a season, and you know what he did?
He obsessed and developed a new shoe where he wouldn't.
Oh yeah, the way we're actually.
No, he went and took tap dancing lessons.
It makes your ankle stronger.
Just, that's why he did it. How committed are you, right, to be a professional, one of the most highest paid basketball players in the world, to get so committed that on top of that, you got to figure out what do I fix, and goes and takes tap dance lessons because it makes your ankle stronger. That's a difference of understanding aim, right, and thinking from my aim versus thinking of my aim. So most people are like, wow, I need to get my ankle strengthened up next year so I can play better and stay uninjured. So I might just hit the weight room a little more. Or I can get extra committed as a man and go take tap dancing lessons in my 20s to make sure that I can what? Make sure I be committed. That's how you win, 5 NBA championships. Yeah. Doing things like that, because this is constantly being obsessed with changing who I am, right? By having that commitment of a constant thing. You know how it was? He said he rolled his ankle 4 or 5 times in that season, and he identified, I got you, a problem. And the problem was his ankles weren't as strong as he needed to be to sustain all the games through the process. And so you got to think outside the box and have a new target of doing so. AKA, right, going to take tap dancing lessons. But we have some people here that won't even study the script at night, right? Or go through the bar presentation, or even record their bar presentation. That's the difference of the obsession of commitment, right? Of what?
Excellent.
The who. He wasn't really getting necessarily the next championship. He understood that he had to change the who to get the championship. Does that make sense to y'all?
Yeah.
And so what point are we obsessed with this who? And so I want you to reverse engineer where are you falling off at on this process. I have a feeling it's right here, because what do most people do? They talk about of their aim. They think of where I'm going to do things. I'm going to do this. But the challenge is, what do they not do? They're not actually do it because they're not still in aim.
That's the huge, like before before I die, I'm gonna ... I'm like, why don't you just do that?
I'm just going to sell 45 homes this year, but they don't actually do the actual part. And so the fix to that is constant obsession, in my opinion, right? Constant observation, but I like to have the word obsessed with where I'm at in my aim. Am I on target, off target, on target, off target? And it's the same thing as looking at the scale every day. You're going to make that adjustment to where you're at. But most people get on the scale, they don't like it, they just quit getting on the scale. Right? And so that's the important part is, do you have the courage to continue on that scale every single day when you don't want to be on there?